The tension inside VisionTech's glass conference room was thick enough to choke on. Every heartbeat echoed against the walls as Madison Cole, the legendary CEO known for her ice-cold precision, turned toward the analyst standing across the table. Her words sliced through the silence like a scalpel. "Look at me again, Mr. Walker, and you're fired." 8 executives froze in unison. Nobody breathed. The hum of the air conditioner felt deafening in the stillness. Ethan Walker, 36, widowed and hollow-eyed from too many sleepless nights, didn't move. His hand hovered mid-air, pen suspended above the report he never got to present. He had only glanced at her, waiting for direction. But at VisionTech, glancing at Madison Cole could cost you your career. "I'm sorry, Ms. Cole," he murmured, voice trained into polite submission after 8 months of walking on glass in this office. Madison tilted her head slightly, her sharp jawline catching the light like polished steel. "Sorry, you think that look wasn't defiance? You think I didn't see it?" Someone coughed. Someone else pretended to check their phone. Everyone knew when Madison entered attack mode, you survived only by disappearing. Ethan's pulse hammered, but not from fear. Something deeper cracked inside him, something that had been holding him together for too long. His dignity, perhaps. The last piece left. "With all due respect," he said slowly, "I was simply waiting for your instruction." The room froze again. You could have heard the drop of a pin or the tremor of disbelief traveling through everyone's spine. No one spoke to Madison Cole like that. No one who wanted to keep their ID badge until sunset. Her eyes narrowed. "Instruction?" She stepped closer, heels echoing like gunshots on the wooden floor. "You want instruction? Mr. Walker, here's one. Employees of this company do not maintain eye contact with me for more than 2 seconds. You just looked at me for 5. That's insubordination." Every instinct screamed at him to lower his head, to whisper an apology like everyone else. But his mind was somewhere else, back home, where his 6-year-old daughter lay under blankets printed with unicorns bald from chemotherapy, but still smiling. "Daddy's my hero," she had written last night in crooked letters under a stick figure drawing. And suddenly losing this job didn't feel like the worst thing that could happen to him anymore. The worst had already happened when Grace, his wife, died 2 years ago, when Lily was diagnosed, when he learned that love meant living every day terrified of losing what mattered most. "If that's reason enough for termination," Ethan said, his voice steadier than he expected, "then maybe this isn't a healthy place for anyone to work." A stunned silence followed, heavy as fog. Madison's lips didn't move, but something flickered in her dark eyes. Not fury this time, but something far more dangerous. Recognition. Discomfort. She thrived on fear, on submission, on people crumbling. But this man, this tired, calm, impossibly steady man, didn't fear her, and that terrified her in ways she couldn't name. "My office," she said finally, her tone deadly soft. 6 p.m. Bring your things." When she left the room, exhaled at once. "Man, you're dead," whispered Ryan Blake from marketing. No one talks back to her. The last guy who didn't even make it to lunch. Amy Thompson. Madison's assistant gathered her folders with trembling hands. "Ethan, I'm sorry," she said quietly. She's going to crush you." Ethan slipped his tablet into his bag unhurried. "She already did," he said. "She just doesn't know it yet." Downstairs at his desk, among the rows of gray cubicles, Ethan started packing his things, photos of Lily, the tiny ceramic mug she'd painted for him, the half-empty coffee thermos that smelled faintly of hospital corridors. 6 hours left until execution. He could already picture the conversation he'd have to face tonight. Lily's wide eyes asking, "Daddy, did you have a good day?" and him forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Meanwhile, across town, Madison Cole poured herself a glass of red wine in her penthouse overlooking downtown Chicago. She didn't bother turning on the lights. Darkness suited her better. It didn't show the empty dining table, the unused furniture, or the life she'd built on control and solitude. Her reflection in the glass stared back 38 successful, beautiful, in the way that intimidated people. Alone. Always alone. She closed her eyes and the past came flooding in like a crack in a dam. 5 years earlier, hotel suite, white wedding dress, 3 months pregnant, the phone vibrating on the nightstand. A message from Daniel. "I'm sorry, I can't do this. I'm not ready to be a father. The pain had been swift, merciless. The bleeding 2 weeks later, even worse. No heartbeat, the doctor had said. Madison had buried that sentence deep inside her building walls of work steel and silence around it. At 28, she'd founded Vision Tech out of ambition. But after losing her child, it became armor. Controlling everything meant nothing could ever hurt her again. She sipped the wine that burned, grounding her. That analyst Ethan Walker would be gone by 6. Just another number erased. Another reminder that kindness was weakness. And yet somewhere inside the fortress, she'd built something restless stirred. By 5 a.m., Ethan was awake as always. Not because of an alarm, his body simply didn't remember what deep sleep felt like anymore. Lily lay curled beside him, clutching her stuffed bear. The faint hum of her breathing, the only sound that kept him sane. He brushed his hand over her forehead. No fever. Thank God. The mirror in the bathroom was unkind, dark circles, rough beard weight lost to stress and grief. He whispered good morning grace to the empty room as he did every day. Today might be the day I lose my job, and I don't know how I'll keep our little girl safe. He calculated the bills again, $12,000 a month in treatments, $186,000 already in debt. His savings wouldn't last past February. Good morning, Mr. Walker, came the warm voice of Mrs. Helen Carter, the babysitter, when he called. Could you come by early today? Of course, sweetheart. How's Lily? She slept well. God bless that child. She's stronger than most grown men I know. When he hung up, his throat tightened. He prepared Lily's medication, every pill organized by color and hour. A single mistake could be fatal. At 6:15, Lily appeared in the doorway, dragging her unicorn blanket. Daddy, you're going to work early again? Ethan lifted her into his arms despite the weakness in his own muscles. I have an important meeting today, Princess. She studied his face, frowning. You look sad again. Your eyes do that thing. He smiled weakly. I'm just tired. Liar, she said softly with the brutal honesty only children had. Then she smiled anyway. It's okay. I lie too sometimes. When I don't want you to worry. He kissed her forehead, blinking fast. 6 years old, and she already understood too much about pretending to be brave. Daddy, she asked as he set her down. When I get better, will you smile for real again? Her words hit him harder than Madison's threats ever could. He didn't trust his voice, so he just hugged her tight. I love you more than anything in this universe. Even Pluto. Even Pluto. By 7:30, Ethan was at his desk at Vision Tech finishing his resignation letter before she could make it official. He opened the private journal he wrote to his late wife every night. Dear Grace, today might be my last day at Vision Tech. I looked at my boss and she saw it as a challenge. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was defiance. But it doesn't matter. I'm scared, Grace, scared. I'll fail our little girl, scared. I can't keep her alive. You always made it look so easy. Please, wherever you are, give me a sign that I can do this. He closed the file. Outside Chicago's skyline glimmered in the pale morning light, millions of people fighting invisible battles of their own. He wondered how many were pretending like him to be fine. His phone buzzed. A message from Mrs. Carter. Lily ate breakfast and took her meds. She's drawing you as a superhero again. Ethan smiled faintly, though his eyes burned. Superhero, he thought. If only she knew how far from that he really was. And somewhere across town, in her tower of glass and silence, Madison Cole stared into her reflection and whispered to herself, control means never feeling anything. But that day she was wrong, because in less than 12 hours, she'd feel everything. At exactly 6 p.m., Ethan stood outside Madison Cole's office on the top floor of Vision Tech. The golden light of sunset cut through the glass walls, wrapping the skyline of Chicago in shades of orange and fire. He could see her inside, sitting behind that massive desk, a silhouette of power and solitude. For a moment, he considered walking away, but he couldn't. Not without closure. He knocked once. Come in. Her tone was calm, detached, mechanical. He entered holding a cardboard box with his belongings the same way people carried flowers to a grave. Madison didn't look up. Set your laptop on the desk, please. He did as told. His heartbeat was steady, almost eerily so. She kept signing papers, pen gliding like a weapon. Finally, she said, you'll receive your compensation as outlined in your contract. Your performance was adequate. Adequate, Ethan repeated almost to himself. Right. Don't take it personally, Madison said, still not looking up. It's just business. The words hit him harder than she realized. His phone started vibrating in his pocket once, twice, then again, over and over. The sound was sharp, desperate. He tried to silence it, but notifications kept flooding the screen. When he finally glanced down, his blood ran cold. Chicago Memorial Hospital. Urgent test results available. Chicago Memorial Hospital. Patient Lily Walker. Then a call from Mrs. Helen Carter. He answered instantly. Mrs. Carter. Her voice shook on the other end. Ethan, thank God. Lily's running a fever, 39 degrees and climbing. They said to bring her in immediately. He was already moving. I'm on my way. He grabbed his box and turned for the door, but Madison's sharp voice cut through the air. Where do you think you're going? My daughter's in the hospital, he said without slowing down. This is more important than your paperwork. For once, she didn't have an immediate response. She just stood there frozen, watching as the elevator doors closed around him. Then something strange happened. Madison glanced at the phone he'd left on her desk by accident. The screen lit up with another notification, and beneath it his wallpaper. A photo of a little girl with no hair holding a crayon, drawing that said, Daddy is my hero. Madison reached for the phone to silence it, but the screen unlocked with his face recognition still active. And there it was, his private journal. She read just a few lines before guilt slammed into her chest like a freight train. Dear Grace, I'm scared. I can't afford Lily's treatment anymore. I'm losing my job today. Please send me a sign. Madison dropped the phone as if it burned her. She sat there motionless, the noise of the city humming beneath her, the words echoing in her head. Fear, love. A father begging the universe to help him keep his child alive. Her throat tightened. She hadn't cried in 5 years, not since the day the doctor said no heartbeat. But now tears fell slow and unstoppable. She thought of the baby she'd lost, the man who left her the walls she'd built so no one could ever hurt her again. And now here she was, destroying someone who had already lost everything. She grabbed her keys and ran. Outside, Ethan was struggling to get a rideshare. The street was jammed with rush hour traffic. His phone buzzed again, and panic clawed at his chest. That's when headlights stopped beside him, the door of a silver Porsche swinging open. Get in, said Madison. He stared at her. You're kidding. Chicago Memorial, she said firmly. It's faster if I drive. He hesitated for half a heartbeat, then climbed in. The Porsche shot into traffic tires, squealing as Madison weaved between lanes with terrifying precision. She didn't speak, but her knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Ethan called the hospital. This is Ethan Walker. My daughter, Lily. Yes, we're 10 minutes away. Madison took a sharp turn onto Lakeshore Drive, the city lights streaking past the windows. For the first time in years, she felt something raw and unfamiliar clawing up her chest. Fear not for herself, but for a little girl she'd never met. When they screeched to a stop in front of the emergency entrance, Ethan jumped out before the car had even fully stopped. Lily Walker, 6 years old, leukemia patient, he shouted at the nurse's station. Room 3, sir. The doctor's waiting. He ran down the hallway, disappearing through the white doors. Madison stayed behind, clutching her car keys, breathing hard. She should leave. This wasn't her place, but her feet refused to move. She followed quietly into the waiting area, where the smell of antiseptic mixed with quiet sobs and whispered prayers. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Then a young doctor, Dr. Patricia Miller, stepped out. Madison stood before she could stop herself. The little girl, Lily Walker, how is she? The doctor blinked. Family, I drove her father here. She has a bacterial infection, but we caught it early. With her immune system so weak, any fever is serious, but she'll be fine with IV antibiotics for a few days. Madison exhaled slowly, something tight inside her chest, finally releasing. Then Ethan appeared at the door, eyes red but calmer now. She's stable, he said. Thank God. He looked at Madison as if seeing her for the first time. You didn't have to do that, I know, she said softly. Why did you? Madison stared down at her trembling hands. I honestly don't know. Before either of them could say more, a small voice came from behind the curtain. Daddy Ethan turned instantly. I'm here, sweetheart. Who's that? The girl asked, her voice tiny but curious. Madison froze. That's the nice lady who helped us get here. Ethan said gently. Lily smiled, a faint glow lighting up her pale face. She's pretty. Madison felt something crack open inside her chest, something she'd buried under years of armor. She forced a smile. You're the strong one, Lily. Are you Daddy's friend? The girl asked. Ethan hesitated, but Lily didn't wait for an answer. You should be. Daddy needs more friends. He's sad when I sleep. Madison's throat closed. She couldn't remember the last time someone said something so pure to her. I'll stay. For a little while, she said quietly. That little while turned into hours. Madison sat beside Lily's hospital bed, listening to the girl talk about her drawings, her dreams, how she wanted to be a veterinarian one day, but only for animals that live a long time. Ethan dozed off in the corner chair, exhaustion finally claiming him. Madison stayed awake, watching the little girl breathe, the beeping of the monitor matching the rhythm of her own heartbeat. At dawn, when the first light touched the hospital windows, Ethan woke and found Madison still there, her head bowed slightly, hand resting near Lily's. You stayed all night, he whispered. Yes. Why? Because for the first time in 5 years, she said, voice barely audible, I wasn't afraid to feel something. When she left a few minutes later, Ethan followed her to the elevator. Ms. Cole. She turned. You saved my daughter's life last night. She shook her head. No, Mr. Walker. Your daughter just reminded me I still have one. The elevator doors closed, leaving Ethan standing there, realizing that the woman who nearly destroyed his world might just be the one who could rebuild it. 3 months passed like a quiet storm, slow, inevitable, and transformative. Vision Tech wasn't just a company anymore. It had become something closer to a heartbeat. Employees smiled when Madison Cole walked into a room, not out of fear, but because they trusted her. She had rebuilt the culture from the ashes of her old self, offering support, compassion, and fairness, where cold perfection once ruled. Yet deep inside, Madison knew she wasn't done rebuilding. Some pieces of her life still waited to fit back together. Every Friday evening, she still visited Lily. The little girl had turned 7, her laughter filling every corner of Ethan's small apartment. The chemo scars had faded, replaced by freckles and wild curls. She ran into Madison's arms that day, yelling, Aunt Maddie, guess what? I can run faster than Daddy now. Madison lifted her, laughing. Oh, really? I'll have to see that race. Ethan appeared in the doorway, holding a tray of lemonade. You'd lose, he said to Madison, teasing for the first time since she'd met him. Their friendship had grown into something neither dared to name, not out of fear, but out of tenderness. Madison, once defined by control, was learning what it meant to let things unfold naturally. Still, the shadows of her past sometimes crept in, the memory of a lost baby, the echo of Daniel's voice saying, I can't do this. She wondered if she deserved the warmth she now felt every time Ethan looked at her, like she was the only person in the room. One evening, as the three of them sat watching the Chicago skyline from the balcony, Lily fell asleep between them. Ethan glanced at Madison. You know, he said softly before you showed up that night at the hospital, I thought I'd lost everything that mattered. But you made me believe again. Madison turned her eyes toward the horizon. Funny, I thought I was saving you. But maybe you were the one saving me. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was peaceful, alive, with everything unspoken. When Ethan reached for her hand, she didn't pull away. It felt right, like the final note in a song that had been building for years. But life has a way of testing what we think we've earned. The next morning, a call came that would shake Madison to her core. Dr. Patricia's voice was calm but urgent. Madison, it's about Lily. Her latest tests show something abnormal. We need to run more scans immediately. Madison's body went cold. No, she was fine last week. Maybe it's nothing, Patricia said gently, but we can't take chances. Madison hung up and called Ethan, her heart pounding. Within an hour, they were back at Chicago Memorial, walking down the same hallway where everything had begun. The fear in Ethan's eyes tore her apart. This man who had endured so much couldn't face losing his child again. Madison held his hand, whispering, She's strong, Ethan. Stronger than both of us. After hours of waiting, Patricia returned with a faint smile. False alarm. The scan picked up scar tissue, not relapse. Lily's perfectly healthy. Ethan sank into a chair, covering his face. Madison let out a trembling laugh, tears spilling down her cheeks. She hadn't realized how much she loved that child until the thought of losing her came rushing back. Later that night, when they took Lily home, Madison lingered at the door. Ethan looked at her and said, "You're part of this family now, Maddie. You always will be." For the first time, she didn't argue. She simply nodded. Weeks turned into months. Madison and Ethan grew inseparable, not through grand gestures, but through quiet, everyday moments, sharing breakfast, laughing at Lily's wild stories, walking through Millennium Park on Sundays with coffee in hand. Madison had never imagined herself in a life like this one, filled not with power, but with peace, and yet she'd never felt stronger. Then one morning she woke feeling dizzy. The sunlight that streamed into her penthouse seemed too bright, the smell of coffee too strong. At first she brushed it off as stress, but when the dizziness returned the next day, Ethan insisted she see a doctor. 2 weeks later, Madison sat in the same hospital where she'd once saved Lily, listening to Dr. Patricia again. Only this time the doctor's smile was wide and genuine. "Madison, congratulations. You're going to have a baby." The world seemed to tilt and right itself all at once. Madison covered her mouth, laughing and crying at the same time. "A baby," she whispered. When she told Ethan that evening, he froze for a moment, then pulled her into his arms. "Do you have any idea how incredible this is?" She smiled through her tears. "I was so afraid I'd never get another chance." He touched her face, voice steady. "You gave everyone around you a second chance. Maybe it's time you finally give one to yourself." Months passed in a blur of anticipation and small joys. Ethan and Madison married quietly in the garden of Lily's hospital, now her favorite place in the world. Only a handful of friends attended, including Dr. Patricia and Amy from Vision Tech. Lily stood proudly as flower girl, scattering petals that landed like promises across the grass. When Madison looked at Ethan at the altar, her voice shook as she said her vows. "I once thought control was the only way to survive, but then I met you and Lily, and you taught me that love isn't about control, it's about surrender." Ethan smiled through tears. "Then let's surrender together." Their kiss drew applause, laughter, and the sound of Lily shouting. Finally. A year later, Madison sat in a quiet corner of Millennium Park, rocking a newborn baby girl in her arms. Lily played nearby, chasing butterflies. Ethan sat beside her, his arm around her shoulder. "Have you picked a name yet?" he asked. Madison looked down at the baby's soft face. "Grace," she said softly. "After someone who taught me to believe again." Ethan nodded. "Grace Walker Cole. She's already got your strength." As the sun set over the Chicago skyline, Madison realized her life had come full circle. From loss to love, from isolation to family, from broken to whole. She finally understood that healing wasn't about erasing the past. It was about building something beautiful on top of it. And when Lily ran back to hug her, shouting, "Mom, look, the sunset's pink like baby Grace's cheeks," Madison laughed through her tears. "You're right, sweetheart. It's perfect." If this story touched your heart, tell me what you felt reading Madison's journey. Do you believe everyone deserves a second chance to find love and forgiveness? If you do, comment the number 100 below and let me know where you're watching from. Share this story with someone who still believes broken hearts can build beautiful endings.